Hope you're not in a bad chair. The bad chair? That was a bad chair. You're not going over. That one goes over. Right? Don't want to sit in the bad chair. Very freaky though. You're free to be up there. But did you want to look at the?
I've got one right here.
Oh, you do, okay. Left it over, maybe Tracy wants to.
372. What was the number last year? This time about 160.
I need to look it up.
Yeah.
Everything on your spot.
Yeah.
Kevin's there.
Kevin's in the middle. Make sure it's not the bad chair. when you sit down. Make sure that's not the chair that's.
Did they throw that out by now?
I think it's over there, but I just.
There, he's the only one that quoted this, or
There's a little explanation.
okay, yeah, I just haven't gotten there yet.
It's a voucher rights too.
Started coming out of game. In the season.
That's it.
Just got one thing to say. How about them Jets? What? No one?
Good idea.
That's that Fisher thing. If you want to look at it. It wasn't up there. He said the financials are in that little skinny one, and then that's the overview.
All right, can we stand for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Our attorney will not be with us tonight. This child is ill and in the hospital.
Baby.
Yes, they were hoping to get out, but as of 10 minutes ago, he's still there. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the August 17th meeting.
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. In terms of my report, water levels are really 245.57 as of yesterday, down more than 8 inches since our last meeting. The river board has reduced the outflow from what the plan calls for, so that they are trying to keep Lake St. Lawrence, which is the forebay of the Robert Moses Dam. They're trying to keep the water level there up, because the more water they let out, the lower that water level is, and those people lose boating privileges. And for the last many years, sort of the middle weekend in October, they've always slowed the outflow down so it comes up and they can all get their boats out. So this year they're trying an experiment where they're just artificially leaving it a little bit higher, and we'll find out how it works. This is one of the GLAM recommendations for changing Plan 2014. So they're just going to try it out. But we are dropping like a rock. It's that time of year. Our parking enforcement person, Gary, provided a bunch of recommendations to Bill and I. I updated the code and passed it back to both Bill and Gary. Gary since provided another document with some more recommendations in it. I need to get those in there, and then once he and Bill have agreed that I captured it correct. Both Matt and Brad need to review it. We know we have a lot of sign work to do in the spring, whether we make any changes or not. But I would think this would come to our November board meeting for review. On the beach dune, the village has been cited by the DEC for lack of beach grass at Gene Halligan's property. It's the only property on the dune without any beach grass, even though nobody supposedly touched it. But we have to buy more beach grass and get it planted. And the DEC has told us that we can bill her for that work. So I'm in the process now of trying to order some beach grass. As of last week, it wasn't available. Today, they told me it is available, so I should get a quote tomorrow and hopefully we'll get some toward the end of October and we can work with the beach advisory committee and get it in the sand.
Everything else was okay with that? Though, with
Yeah.
The dunes?
Yeah.
Good.
The streetlight maintenance people are finally taking our suggestion and they're gonna come for 2 days, October 3rd and 4th. And try to get all the lights that aren't operational. What they've been doing, they come from Albany. That's who NIPA has their service contract with. So they come from Albany. So they're in the truck for 3 or 4 hours. They come here and work for 3 or 4 hours and then they go back. Not a very productive day. So we've suggested to them for several months that they spend a night or two here. So the guys that come would like to do. And they finally agreed to make it happen. Although they've done a pretty good job of getting most of them working. New York Forward, which is part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. We applied for this grant last year and all the awards went west of Rochester in our region. We will be applying again this year. We did have a conference with the people last year after we didn't make it and they made some suggestions. There's been a lot of private investment in the village in the last year that will play well in our grant application. So Sharon is updating that and we'll get that in. It's somewhere between a $2.5 and a $5 million grant if we get it. And it starts with a New York State led planning process for the community. Our goal would be to get several of the ATP recommendations funded and constructed, maybe a community pier, and repair the public parking areas that are in dire need of work. What all that adds up to, if we're lucky enough to get the grant, time will tell. On the Still Shore drainage project, this is fixing the pipe. All the approvals are in place. A walkthrough was conducted with the contractor and a representative of the Woods property. Work is scheduled to start October 2nd. Expected to take a couple of days and then the site will be remediated the best it can at that time, but we all know things settle. So the Woods have agreed that we'll come back in the spring and fix their driveway and sod their lawn, assuming that it settles a lot.
The water on that is now below the pipe, Dave.
Yeah.
Are you, how soon is that scheduled for then?
The week of October 2nd.
Okay, so, and it should be completed then, as far as everything but the paving.
The pipe work will all be done that week.
I'm sorry, you said that, and I
That's all right.
confused. Thank you.
Yep. Planning board also had their Zoom meeting hijacked. So it was pretty nasty. It's been reported. It appears, best Kevin and I can tell, to have come through a VPN, which means it's not really traceable. Our IT guy will look at it tomorrow. But this meeting, everybody was muted automatically as they came in. When we get to public comment, Kevin will unmute everybody. Or make it so people can unmute themselves, and then we'll mute everybody again to try to prevent that from happening. We published the meeting ID. It's not all that difficult. It appeared to be kids just trying to be
Funny, everything fine.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was disturbing.
We talked about it and you weren't there because you were offsite, right? And they struggled because they don't really know how to interact with.
Yeah, I just met with Tom Johns today, ran him through everything. meeting with Bruce Edmund next week, and then we're gonna put everything down. When I talk to Adam tomorrow, we'll figure out what all we should put in the cheat sheet. But then Tracy's suggestion was to go, so later on, I'm sorry to jump way ahead. Later on in the meeting, you're gonna be talking about your special event permit with multiple locations. So like the community center, she has a cheat sheet for running that out. We're gonna make one for running this out, one for running out Oscar First, Willow Park, and make cheat sheets for each one. So if there's something they should know, like Zoom, it'll be in the room when they come in.
Yeah, we were talking about training too. Maybe it might be good to give, there's some videos that anybody on the planning board or zoning board could actually get for free.
I was looking at a couple of those videos tonight and they're good, and I was thinking if we came up with one of them, we could put it out on the shoreline. So that everybody that's participating could do that, because I think it's education of the public as well as the private sector. So that everybody can participate appropriately that's supposed to, and then we could shut down the ones that aren't supposed to.
Yeah, it's real simple link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was driving, I thought if my grandkid could put something on my phone, I didn't have any idea. And I shut down real quick when I heard it was that bad, and I was like, what were those kids on? And then I came back in, it was still happening. And it was really disgusting, so.
Nice.
Yep. All right, in terms of wastewater, they pressed for 3 weeks. They have not had to press much this year, but they did press for 3 weeks, and the unit looks pretty good right now. They helped the water department with a couple leaks. Fixed a curb stop on Lake Road. Fixed another problem on First Street. They got an air compressor to help them complete some of their duties at the plant. The welding of unit 1 has been completed. That's the unit that's not online, and we're working to get online hopefully next month. Colasino calibrated the flume that they use to perform some of their tests. They organized their safety data sheets. They removed 55 inches of supernatant from the digester. Fire extinguishers for the whole village were inspected last week. Sorted out a bunch of cans of paint. Are drying a bunch out to get rid of. So that's where we are with them. I can't read his
It's quote.
this quote. If you don't eat it, don't flush it.
Okay then.
4 Ps, poop, pee, puke, paper, toilet paper only, kitchen grease. Doesn't belong down the drain.
And Camden Greg is working in the water department. Was he part of the summer program? or-
He was part of the summer program for highway, and he's there for 1 more week to help them get that unit ready.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, he's been a big boom. They got a lot done in the last week and a half.
Great.
Why they didn't get it done this summer is a different question. But
Bill, the only thing I've got a couple of things, just regarding the parking situation. Gary Gray and myself have driven around the point at different hours of the day and weekends, weeknights and that stuff to see where some of our advancements can be done. Plus, David, like you said, we're getting it printed up. We'll review it again, and then it'll end up coming back, as Dave said, in November sometime. All I've got, David.
okay, thank you. Jennifer,
I have nothing.
Bud?
Hey, for the ambulance, total of 372 responses to date so far. Billables for August were 29, total responses for August were 44, 22 ALS assists, 22 BLS responses, 13 miscellaneous calls. And Bill's got notes in here. You know, they're pretty excited at having a full crew. It's made all the difference in the response team and the numbers of calls that they can go to. And the number of ALS support has dropped, which means less money we're paying out and more money we're taking in. So that's better. Staff has closed their doors for good and turned on their certificate of need, if you will. That's it for ambulance. For highway, they did the brush cleanup on September 11th. The next one will be October 10th, which that's the last one, I believe. And then the brush dump on Featherly Drive will be closed after that last pickup. So if you got stuff to get get down there or get rid of it, get it done. They're obviously moving forward with the Sill Shore Road pipe fixed. They did some paving over on Central. They're getting the trucks switched over. They're taking down all the flowers and banners, doing all that good stuff. The speed signs in the report will be covered by the CHIPS program with the email attached. Yeah, which isn't on there. Yeah. They're currently, the highway is currently looking to get a new dump truck on order as described in the 23 budget. Their current truck they're replacing is a 2004. The new trucks in January were out to last quarter of 24. So at this point, they say we'll not see a truck until 2025. That'll put the age of our oldest truck at 21 years at the time of sale and putting our 14-year-old truck at the same time as a spare.
What's the mileage on that, do you know?
The oldest one is 40,000 miles. Which doesn't seem like a lot to you or I, but in a town with a 17-mile radius, you know.
Also spaced a lot on hours.
Yeah,
Talked about
The
that.
bigger issue is the box is
Yeah.
rotting away, the hydraulics are rotting away.
right.
So the salt's rotting.
Yeah,
So we can establish need on that.
Right. Also, the salt barn, it's definitely in need of a new roof. The old one's starting to show holes, damaging the salt in the barn. Generally, they have about $20,000 worth of salt in the building, and roughly $62 a ton. And we'll go over quotes tonight, and there'd be a shingle roof because the parking area and roadway with replacement of all the wood sheathing underneath. That's
So
it.
that'll get rid of the holes in the back.
Well,
they patched those up.
yeah, they've done a little bit in the back there to try and clean that up, but the roof obviously is, I mean, they were pushing for a hole in the barn, but that's just not in the cards right now.
And any chance we can get somebody to power wash in front of this building and?
It was done
It
2
was
weeks
done.
ago.
It was done 2 weeks ago and it's.
Yeah, all those bugs are since.
Welcome to the.
That's a daily thing down at the shop. We have to,
It's awful
And
at my
then
house.
it's been swept a couple times since.
I believe that because I know what I do at my house.
All right, Lori,
The CEC or energy savings. The EV stations are behind due to the government. According to Rob Richardson, the controller is holding up the 2022 ZWB funding that was awarded to communities. I met with the village of Sodas this week. They're having the same problems. Things are just slow right now, as are all the projects. We will be working with Emily again. I can't think of her last name, Royce. And Rob said that we can contact her to do another study to see if we're saving money. And I think we did that last year in February,
but still don't have results.
but we still don't have the results.
Right. So there's no sense giving them more data
Okay,
until we get results from what we're giving them.
so let me just make a note of that, or it'll be gone forever. The LWRP met on August 23rd. We reviewed various parts of the report that BNL has put together. We are getting into village code at this point. BNL took ideas and concerns from members. They will assist with reviewing our village code and make recommendations. And I think this is really good, to have an outside agency study the village code and make the recommendations rather than us trying to do it with all of our own personal agendas through everybody. Everybody's got their own thing. So they'll come back with something that's fair, generic, and not taking anybody away from anything. It should be-
For chapter 190.
Yeah,
which
for
is the
chapter
zoning.
190. So what's that? The zoning code, I'm sorry. Willow Park, you're gonna get a presentation tonight. We had a great summer. Or I'm sorry, this is Willow Park Visitor Center. Visitor Center was very active. They had over 1,260 visitors this summer. 91 who signed in 2022, giving them a difference of over 359, I think it is. And they just continue to grow. They got lots of nice comments. They were pushing the restaurants, advising people where to go for various things. The museum was a real hit. There were postcards sent back to us saying how good it was. And that's all wonderful. And 2 of the members suffered extensive surgeries and whatnot, and the place operated without any problems. And thank you to Tracy for helping them get through that. The playground, which I'm pretty close to right now, has had some great meetings and everything is going well. They really enjoyed the Barton and Lojudas plan for the reorganization of Willow Park and a new playground. They have put the committee on course to formalize an endowment for Willow Park so that once this is built, there will be a fund for donations that continues so that the endowment can give continued maintenance and repairs and replacement parks for years and years to come. Minutes are always attached. I'm really excited about this plan. I believe we can get corporate sponsorship and whatnot to get to a certain point, then we can take advantage of a few grants. After you see the presentation, I think you'll understand what we're trying to do. We're hoping not to take any tax money other than grants, which I know is your other pocket, believe it or not, but if it doesn't come to our pocket, it goes to somebody else's pocket. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for the village. This is a playground that's an all abilities playground. So it doesn't matter if you're to 100, you'll have something to do there that will keep you active, an active community. And any child that has a special need shall be able to do many, many things. The presentation you're going to see tonight is not exactly what the playground's going to look like. It's got some suggestions in it that we worked with a company to give us some. But as we go along, that'll be more refined and the community will be more involved in that. There's a committee of about 22. Anybody that's interested is welcome to join. And we formalized and are now working with Nixon Peabody as soon as I sign a contract after this is accepted tonight to get our 501c3 so that it will be an entity all of its own. And we're working for an MOU for the with the village when it comes time to do all of this. So take a look tonight. It's a great opportunity. And with that in mind, I'd like to thank Brad. He fixed the handicap swing or a handicap teeter-totter, or the teeter-totter, I'm sorry.
Fix the swing, took teeter-totter out.
He took the teeter-totter out.
Yeah.
And he's been doing a really great job. However, for grants and to establish unity and also to know what we need to put in next year's budget. It was recommended when I asked for repair things from a couple of the playground guys that we should get a commercial audit on our playground equipment to know the safety of that equipment and to know how long it'll last as we're going along and what could be repaired successfully and if we need to do anything else. Also, it will help with liability because we're working on another playground. So I've included, there aren't many of these places that do this. So I only got one bid on it, but it's for $650 and I'm hoping the board will approve that so that we can have that done so that we know what we need to do. And I would motion to approve that. It should be in board minutes, if that's okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
What's their time frame, Lori, on getting in here to do that, do you know?
3 weeks if I call him tomorrow.
Okay. I'll say it doesn't do any good to get them in here, it's middle of December, there's a foot of snow on it.
No,
Somebody's in front of
we want it before then. Also, I want to know what needs to be done, but Brad really should be commended because I mentioned the swing to him and he had to order parts, so that was a couple of days. of delay when I asked about it the last time. And then he got in there and got that teeter totter out of there before I made a call. Somebody else had called him, so he does a good job. But there are some polls and things like that that they'll know what to do. So,
Lori, let me play devil's advocate for a
Yeah.
second. Does it make more sense? I was just thinking about this now. Does it make more sense to do it now or do it in the spring when something may have rotted or changed or whatever throughout the freeze?
according to them, it doesn't make any difference and it'll be very useful for our grant writing.
Okay,
And for budgeting, right?
And most of it's concrete or steel or plastic.
okay.
Yeah,
Kevin?
For August, we had 11 building permits issued. Planning and zoning has been extremely busy. They've had a couple of special meetings to keep up with the workload. $1,275 in fees generated for the month of August.
All right, thank you. We will briefly move to public comments. Shortly after 7, we'll pause and move on to our first agenda of new business because there's someone joining us to guide us through that. I will remind everybody that we're going to time you for 3 minutes and ask if there's any public comments in the room. Okay, any public comments on Zoom?
One sec. All right, they can unmute
All right, you
themselves.
can unmute yourself on Zoom if you'd like to. Okay, thank you. We'll close public comments and move on to old business.
Hey, Dave, can I say something real quick? Crew came out and repaved the road in front of our house this last week,
Mhm.
and the crew did a great job. It's already made a big difference in how we get in and out of the driveway to our place. And I just wanted to say for everybody involved in getting it done, thank you.
Thank you. It was a different group and they seem to do a good job.
Yeah.
I also attended the testing at Sill Road and Dave and the crew from the highway department, that was quite a job. To send a camera down for these pipes and find all the information. They all did a great job working together. The representative for the other party that was concerned did a fine job too, and I thought that they did. It all came out good.
Rose did a good job.
Okay, event permit form. You want to walk us through this, Kevin?
So I took, Tracy already had a form, this one here.
That's the
Yeah,
one that
this
was-
one.
That was the existing.
That's the existing form she had. I took what you sent me from Webster
Mhm.
and I kind of,
Made it so to point.
yeah, combined it with Tracy's information and then so does the stuff from Webster
Mhm.
and made something out of it.
That's good.
I think it encompasses everything you asked for and the big thing is it's still in the village clerk's hands for permitting, because that's how it's kind of codified, is the village clerk handles the, you know, the stuff for that. If there's something that brings me in, then obviously I would do it, but it's the village clerk that does that.
I think the only thing that we talked about in addition to that was the involvement of the fire chief and the ambulance department in this process, because they're gonna have to be involved in any large size events.
Yeah, where it says estimated attendance, that's where you start getting into like, if someone does this for a birthday and there's 10 people,
Really don't need to call the
doesn't-
chief.
yeah.
Right.
but if all of a sudden someone fills this out and we say 10,000 people, now all of a sudden, okay, we're in a different ballpark and we gotta discuss it differently.
And they are made aware today, as is the sheriff's office, depending on what's going on.
Is that something that should be a workflow for somebody here?
Meaning,
It's something that Kevin and I do today.
She means like a
notifying or-
workflow for someone who's interested in putting on an event. So if they
Yeah.
went to our website and they said, you know, I'm gonna have this many people, they could look and see, okay, this is what I need to have prepared in order to go to Tracy or yourself before they even come. Instead of just getting this form and not knowing that they have additional gates that they have to go through.
We don't ask them to go through those gates. We get in touch with fire and ambulance and sheriff and let them know what's going on. And then if there's any questions or concerns, we loop everybody back together in a meeting.
So that's not really on here.
That's just where the
Yeah,
attendance comes in, and then everything that you guys had said, I heard you kind of bring up, so like. The insurance, Tracy was already asking for some
Yeah, she
insurance
has
and
that,
some
yeah.
Department of Health stuff, if there was like a plot drawing or the open flame cooking, I think I heard someone say.
Right.
That got added, so if there's anything like that, that got brought up and put on here.
We can make a note about,
Anything over X number,
I think that would make sense, because then it's not, you know, a question about it, they're gonna have to.
something like this.
A checklist or some sort for events over.
that's what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, is that same thing, if you're renting out this room, we've had someone ask, how do I use this?
Yeah,
How
I
do I
think
do
I
that?
did that.
And so if we have something
Instead
that
of
we
doing
can
that.
do, you're running the room, here's this.
Yeah, and that would be, this would be good too for events for cleanup. So people know that they're, you know, they're gonna have to come and they're gonna take their garbage and they're not gonna leave it for everybody to pick up and.
One thing I'm not seeing here is any kind of, I mean, I see the disclaimer, you know, the hold harmless for the village, but what is the repercussion? Like, okay, will there be alcohol sold? You know, use that when it's an easy one to target. If yes, state license provided. What if they say no, and then alcohol is there, what now? What's our recourse?
So down,
That's just a hold harmless.
no, up here, if
It
there's
just
a
says he'll
section.
comply, but
we have an
There's a
open container law on the books that the sheriff could enforce if somebody calls and complains.
There's also a section that says if they violate any of the thing in here, it's totally on them. They've misrepresented their application. Now it's 100% on them to deal with repercussions.
okay.
There were a couple things I saw that were missing, is that we didn't have any charges for anything. I like the idea that it was anybody that was associated with Sodas Point, with, you know, within the village, was grandfathered in, didn't have to pay. But anybody from outside the village would have to pay a fee permit. Do we have anything like that that comes from outside the village?
We
that-
kind of discussed that and we were just talking about, you know, certain places they, I guess, like the town of Webster, they provide services with those events, you know, they have staff.
Yeah, their parks person comes and
So
closes.
that's where that, you know, on that one,
Okay.
it has such a strict, you know, and it was
Right.
hefty fees, but that's why, because they're paying for, you know.
Services and.
Paid
Yeah,
fire
and
department,
employees
paid
and-
police, paid park
So
person.
that's where, that's something,
Differs.
yeah.
If,
you have
if
to-
they use the ambulance, or I really think that we should be starting to have at least a donation that comes from their organization.
I mean, if they use the ambulance, they get charged.
They can build anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
It's-
yeah, I mean, if the transporting ambulance, the way the billing works, I'm sorry, I don't mean to turn it over. The way billing is done with the agency is transporting ambulance is the one that does the billing. So if you transport, but Wayne County ALS rides with us, Wayne County ALS charges us $100 per ride, which they're not making any money. And then the billing goes through us for the whole shooting match and we give them $100 back. So transporting ambulance is the one that does the bill. There's a couple other things that get involved in that with mutual aid and that kind of thing that we haven't even messed with, because it's just not feasible, but the billing is done by transport. And that goes to a company called MedX, and they do our billing and that, and, you know, if when there's a problem or no, and we go from there. Yes, sir.
What is the average billing then for a transport, from, say, here to the hospital?
You want the average billing or do you want what we get back?
No, average billing.
Average billing probably for BLS. 600? I think, well, that's the billing that we set in the,
There's nothing under, it's like over 1,000.
is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I haven't looked at the contract since last year or so,
Yeah.
and we don't get, if we get a third of that back, we get a lot back.
So it's going
So, you know, in ALS
12 and $1,500.
is even more than that. That would be your basic fee.
So there's an other, is that like, so the one thing, we're gonna do parking under other, because there's like locations, and I know that parking is something that we, with the bike event, for example, if they want to use a specific
It's on-
parking area, could we put that under other, or?
The village
Streets, that's
streets.
not the municipal
Oh,
parking
the
lot.
other were like, if they want to use the kayak launch, let's say someone wanted to have a birthday party on a
That's what
place
others
that we
cover.
don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, that hasn't been done before, we can look into the logistics
And
of it.
parking would be part of the checklist for Oscar First, Willow Park. Could be the Mark Jones Outlook, depending on
Size
size.
of the party, yeah, okay.
That's great.
You
All
wanna
right,
give
we'll
a comment,
move
so-
forward with that.
So we have to accept it or put it into play.
Well, it's,
Yeah,
We don't have all the checklists ready yet, so does that?
If you want to give us comments too, we can wait, just.
Yeah, I think we'll just start to use it and.
See how it goes,
Get the
it doesn't have
checklist.
to be final,
No.
See how it
you're gonna learn as you go, right?
Yeah.
that's
Very
right. Pigeonhole ourselves.
Everything else.
Definitely better.
All right, we will close old business and move on to new business. And the first order of business is to discuss the eminent domain process. Kathy Bennett is on. She is an attorney that is familiar with and does eminent domain proceedings that was recommended by Matt. And she's going to lead us through the materials, the process, etc. You do have in your packets my notes from a conversation I had with her in August that we discussed last meeting briefly, and some notes from a September telephone call that we had, and then a few resolutions that we can decide to act on. I think we can hear you, Kathy, if you want to start.
Good evening, everyone. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Hi.
Okay, great. It's nice to meet you all. It'll be nice to meet you in person at the public hearing. So as the mayor said, he and I have discussed the 20-foot right-of-way along Sodus Bay that was granted to the federal government in 1899. And when you go back and you look at that easement document, one of the purposes of that was to allow for the use and convenience of the public generally. And that has been used by the public since 1899. I went back and looked at some of the comments that were provided in connection with the planning board review of the fence issue, and those neighbors made it clear that they've been using that path, that they view that path as a vital link between the Lakeview neighborhood and the village. So to preserve the original one of the original purposes of that easement, right, the mayor asked me whether or not eminent domain would be a possibility. It certainly is. Providing a public access way is absolutely a public use. So what the village would be doing at this stage is seeking to obtain its own right-of-way across the lands owned by James and Lisa McNanny, the Depew Family Irrevocable Trust, and Guy and Kathleen Beretta. And so what's in front of you tonight are the initial stages, the initial steps that need to be taken under the eminent domain procedure law to move forward with that process. So the first step is the resolution that you have in front of you, basically authorizing the village to take all appropriate actions under the EDPL. And that would include the retention of any consultants, any appraisers, any publication and mailings that needed to be done in connection with notices, conducting of any surveys, etc. Following the consideration and adoption of that, if the village board decides to adopt that resolution, then the village board would need to commence the environmental review process pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And for that, you have part one of a short environmental assessment form and a resolution that would classify the action as unlisted, and then declaring the village board's intent to act as the lead agency for purposes of undertaking that environmental review. And then the final step tonight, should the village board wish to take it, would be to schedule a public hearing on the eminent domain pursuant to Article 2 of the eminent domain procedure law. I can pause there and answer any questions about those steps, or I can continue to explain what process would follow after that, whatever your preference is.
Does any board member have any questions?
Cut and dry.
I guess you can keep going, Kathy. Thank you.
Okay, so once the public hearing is scheduled and held, and how the public hearing would work, it's a little different than what you're probably used to for public hearings. So it's not just a public hearing that you open and invite the public to speak at. What happens initially is I would make a presentation on behalf of the village that would establish, the reasons why the village is looking to acquire this right of way. So I would walk through what the public purpose is. I would walk through, what alternatives may or may not be available. And I would walk through any environmental impacts that would be associated with the acquisition of this right of way. Following that initial presentation on behalf of the village, what we would do then is open it up to anyone in the public who wished to comment on the acquisition of the right of way. Once the public hearing was closed, I'd meet with or talk to the village board to discuss what would be their thoughts, what would be a determination and findings, and then I would draft that up for the village to consider adopting, because that's the next step after the public hearing, is for the village board to say, yes, we're going to take it, and if we're going to take it, here's the reasons why we're going to take it. Or alternatively, if you're not going to take it, we would pass a resolution saying why you decided not to take it. Once you, let's say you do decide to move forward and you issue that determination and findings, anyone who was aggrieved, so any of these 3 property owners who felt that they were aggrieved by that determination, would have 30 days to challenge that. That challenge would go directly to the appellate division. And it would be very limited in terms of what it could be challenged on. So they could challenge based on the environmental review. They could challenge based on the public use and purpose. At that point, they couldn't challenge based on compensation. That part comes later. So after you issue the determination and findings, the village would make a formal EDPL offer for the fair market value of the easement to the 3 property owners involved. Following that offer, what would happen is the village would file a petition with the Wayne County Supreme Court seeking permission to file an acquisition map to acquire the easement. And basically what the Supreme Court is looking at that point in time is, has the village complied with all of the procedural steps in the eminent domain procedure law? And as long as all of those procedural steps have been met, then the Supreme Court grants permission to file the acquisition map. Once we file that map, the village takes title to that easement. And then the property owners would be free to file a claim for additional compensation if they felt that the village's offer was not sufficient. But at that point in time, the village would control the easement, and we'd have that case or that claim, deal with that claim afterwards. And that's really the process in a nutshell.
Any questions?
So you're saying that if the village filed this, they would pay the owner, or there would be at some point an amount of money that went to the owner. So we'd basically be buying a right of way from the owner, or the right of way for the property on their land. I'm not sure I understand all of that.
Yes. So one of the steps that would be taken after tonight is the village would seek to retain an appraiser, and an appraiser would go out and determine what the impact was on the properties by virtue of the village taking this 20-foot right of way.
And there'll still be a federal right of way then on there, so that the
Yes.
federal government would still have control.
Well, the federal government would be able to use it for their purposes. And then since what the village is acquiring it for is encompassed in what the original federal right of way was taken for, you're just sort of co-locating your easement over the federal government's easement. You're not taking the federal government's easement. They still have the right to access it and use it for their purposes. You have the right to use it for as a public access and right of way, which is also included in the original intent of that federal easement.
Have you
But-
ever done any of these before? Where it involves an old agreement for a right of way?
I've not done anything specifically like this, no, but I've done a number of right of ways. I've done a number of right of ways over other right of ways, and as long as the uses don't conflict, the two right of ways are generally allowed to coexist.
Are there cases on file of this nature?
In terms of
Well, I'm sure
locating one easement over another easement.
based on an 1899 agreement.
I've not found any specific cases that deal with, an 1899 agreement.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What's a typical timeline for this process?
So generally, I tell people 2 to 4 months. And part of that depends on whether or not there's a challenge. If they challenge the determination and findings with the appellate division, then what happens is we could still file the petition with Supreme Court requesting permission to file an acquisition map. But the judge, it's basically at the judge's discretion at that point, whether he waits for the appellate division, he or she waits for the appellate division process to play out, or decides to go ahead and authorize the filing of the map. I've seen cases where judges do both. So it's really at their discretion at that point. And in that situation, it's just going to take however long it takes for the appellate division process to play out, which could be another 8 months. 6 to 8 months, I would say, for the appellate division.
If it's challenged, what do you see the cost needed? Would it be? It would be more, I would assume it'd be more than $15,000.
If it's challenged and goes to the appellate division, it would probably be between 25 and 35,000.
They can only challenge based on two things, though, you said, right?
Yes, essentially. I mean, they could also challenge based on an alternatives analysis, but here, you're seeking to use an existing right of way. And so that's sort of, there is no other alternative unless, people are going to walk in the water. I mean, I guess the alternative that we would consider, though, is, walking down the street, whether there were sidewalks, right? Sort of the safety. I did see some of those comments. So certainly that's also helpful in that respect.
Does this conflict with any other things that we have going on?
No.
As far as jeopardizing anything?
No.
How do you know the answer is no to that question?
Because I've talked to our attorney. He was very clear. Any other questions from the board? Anyone want to propose the first resolution? So I take it we're no longer interested in this?
So what is the first, there was a resolution, and there was an environmental activity, and then there was another resolution,
The
so.
first, the first resolution is to start the process. To take the action. The rest are irrelevant if we don't take that one.
So the first one is the one that's entitled Resolution Authorizing Village to Take All Appropriate Actions under the New York Eminent Domain Procedure Law to acquire right-of-way for public access to pier/waterfront. That would be the first one.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. And the resolution, as you read through it, is a mouthful.
I don't think I have a copy of that. Is there more than, I didn't, and that's why. I printed my own thing, right, so. So this one that's. And the second one is this. We just have to do the first one, is that right?
We have to do the first one first. We do the first one, then we have to do the other two.
Did you get a copy of that?
Well, let's stop this from happening.
You're not, we're not taking public comment, we'll stop.
I didn't know that you were up there. Right.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, if there was any question for her. I had one.
No,
We're
there's
taking
not-
questions in the board. This isn't a public discussion. That will happen later. If we move forward at all.
We need a motion to move forward with the resolution.
Well, we can just read the resolution.
Okay,
You want me to read the resolution? You want to offer it and I'll read it?
yes,
All right. Meeting of the village board of the village of Sodas Point was convened in public session on September 21, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. local time. The meeting was called to order. Did a roll call. Following resolution was offered by Jennifer Evans, whereas to accomplish its governmental purposes, the village is authorized and empowered to acquire by eminent domain pursuant to New York State eminent domain procedure law or other means those real property interests necessary and or appropriate to further its stated purposes. Whereas the village is seeking to acquire and preserve the 20-foot right-of-way granted to the United States of America per Libra 181 of deeds, page 419, for the purpose of maintaining the historical public access and walkway along Great Sodas Bay. Whereas the right-of-way was convened by Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad in 1899 to provide United States of America with access to the pier and also for use and convenience of the public generally. And whereas the right-of-way encumbers the following properties in the village of Sodas Point, Wayne County, New York, identified in the table below as James and Lisa McNady, the Pugh Family Irrevocable Trust, and Guy and Kathleen Barrett. Whereas a short environmental assessment form and supporting documents is being reviewed by the village. Whereas the village has attempted to preserve the right-of-way without resorting to eminent domain, but have been unsuccessful in those efforts. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the village as follows. Village mayor, staff, and village's legal counsel, Von Chinook King, are hereby authorized and directed to do such things or perform such acts and execute such documents as are necessary and or appropriate to duly notice and conduct a public hearing as provided under EDPL Article 2, including but not limited to retaining any professionals, consultants, and contractors necessary to provide materials required under EDPL in connection with a public hearing and possible acquisition of eminent domain parcels. And to take all actions under EDPL 404 to allow for and facilitate village officers, agents, and contractors to enter upon eminent domain parcels for the purpose of making surveys, test bits, borings, or other investigations. Copy of this resolution with attachments hereto shall be placed on file in the office of the village, where the same shall be available for public inspection during business hours. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I want the understanding that I've got is that we need to have, it is a public hearing. So it needs to go that far, so the public hears it. And has a chance to say what they want to say and go from there.
Yep.
It's not a matter of being right or wrong, it's a matter of finding out what this community wants to do.
Yep.
I agree that the community needs to make the decision, and it should be the entire community, not just a few. And it's important that we get the word out and that we allow enough time to have a public hearing where it really is. I wouldn't be hesitant to have a vote on it. I don't think that it's something that should just be done. I mean, we're looking at $35,000 possibly if it's appealed. And then we're turning around and we're looking at buying people's property and having more money there and that sort of thing. So this could get pretty pricey, and the public needs to be aware of it always and figure it out. But I do think that we should have it resolved once and for all and finalize and see what the public response is.
All right, so Jennifer made the motion, Bill seconded it. All those in favor?
Nice.
Did you say aye, Bill?
I did not, I'm still digesting it all, and I guess I'm along with Lori, I'm still trying to figure out what's the whole cost versus
We
benefit.
won't know till we take the next
Right.
vote.
I guess,
So then we'll have the appraisal.
all right, I guess I'll say aye, so we can at least get some information going. Just,
After the hearing, at that hearing, we don't make the decision that night.
No, you would not make the decision that night.
And after the hearing, when we do that, is there any way to have a ballot box for something like this? This is a big chunk of change for this community.
So I think it's hard to know what the costs are going to be at this point, and in terms of having the public vote on an eminent domain, generally the case law disfavors that. Eminent domain is an inherent governmental power that can't be given away,
Okay.
And certainly can't be subject to voter referendum. But that doesn't mean that to your point, right? Make sure that you get the word out, that people attend the hearing, and that people who want to speak on this issue have the opportunity to do so that you feel like you've heard as many of those people as possible.
Okay. Passing that, now the next resolution, and I'll just read it. It is also in your packet. Whereas to accomplish its governmental purposes, the village is authorized and empowered to acquire by eminent domain pursuant to New York State eminent domain procedure law or other means, those real property interests necessary and or appropriate to further its stated purposes. Whereas the village is seeking to acquire and preserve the 20-foot right-of-way granted to the United States of America per Liber 181 of deeds, page 419, for the purpose of maintaining the historical public access and walkway along Great Sodus Bay. Whereas the right-of-way was conveyed by Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad in 1889 to provide the United States of America with access to the pier and also for use and convenience of the public generally. Whereas the right-of-way encumbers the following properties located in the village of Sodus Point, Wayne County, New York, identified as Lisa and James McNaney, the Pugh Family Irrevocable Trust, Guy and Kathleen Beretta. Whereas the board desires to comply with New York State Environmental Quality Review Act set forth in Article 8 of New York State Environmental Conservation Law and the requirements of implementing regulations set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617. Whereas pursuant to seeker, the board has considered the project in light of actions included on the type 1 list specified in 617.4 of the regulations, and in light of the actions included on the type 2 list specified in 617.5 of regulations. And whereas part 1 of the short environmental assessment form has been prepared by the board's consultants dated September 21st, 2023, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit A. The board has considered the information which describes the project as set forth in the environmental assessment form, as well as the board's knowledge of the right-of-way and properties involved. And whereas there are no other interested or involved agencies in regard to the project, now therefore be it resolved, the board declares that based on the record before it, including part 1 of the environmental assessment form, and under application standard SECA, the project is classified as an unlisted action, as that term is defined in the regulation. 2, under the application standards, applicable standards of seeker, and having completed part 1 of the environmental assessment form, the board intends to assume the role of lead agency for the coordinated seeker review of the project. This resolution shall take effect immediately, and the district administration is authorized to take steps necessary to carry on this resolution.
Who does the seeker?
It is attached.
It's right there.
So
The consultant,
The consultant, and who would the consultant need?
Kathleen prepared this draft for us, and we're declaring ourselves as lead agency, so we have to review what's here
Okay, so
and see if we agree with it.
okay,
So you just read 2 of these, right?
Pardon?
Okay, you read 2 resolutions. Right?
Yeah.
Just so I understand, because I think you read one and then you started to read the other one. right?
Yeah, I kind of got lost in there for a minute
Yeah.
myself.
So we read 2 of them. Started with this one and then you did the second one that had the seeker on it, right?
No, they're in the wrong order in the packet.
Oh, okay, because I'm.
The
I was like,
third
where we
one
go?
is the one I read, because that's the secret one. I
Okay.
put them in the wrong order in the packet.
Okay, so that's not, okay,
Because I didn't fully understand the process. So I read the seeker one, but now we have to go through the short form. Much like planning board does.
right. That's why I wondered if the planning board did it.
Does the proposed action only involve the legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? No. Does the proposed, and stop me if anybody disagrees with any of these answers. Does the proposed action require a permit, approval, or funding from any other government agency? No. Total acreage of the site proposed action, 0.6 acres. Total acreage to be physically disturbed, 0. It's defined as parkland, aquatic, and residential. Is the proposed action permitted under zoning? Yes. Is it consistent with adapted comprehensive plan? Yes. Is the proposed action consistent with predominant character of existing built and natural landscape? Yes. Is the site of the proposed action located in, or does it adjoin a state listed critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in substantial increase in traffic above present levels? No. Public transportation doesn't really apply. Are any pedestrian accommodations or bicycle routes available on or near the site of the proposed action? Yes. Does the proposed action meet or exceed state energy codes? Yes. Will the proposed action connect to an existing public-private water supply? No. Will the proposed action connect to an existing wastewater utility? No. Does the project site contain, or is it substantially contiguous to, a building, archaeological site, or district which is listed in the National or State Register of Historic Places, or has been determined by the Commissioner of New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible to be listed in the State Register of Historic Places? No. Is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office archaeological site inventory? Yes, our entire village is. Does any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands or other bodies regulated by federal, state, or local agencies? Yes. Would the proposed action physically alter or encroach into an existing wetland or water body? No. Identify the typical habitat types that occur on or are likely to be found in the project site. Shoreline and suburban. Does the site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed by the state, federal government as threatened or endangered? Yes, bald eagle. Is the project site located in a 100-year floodplain? Yes. Will the proposed action create stormwater discharge either from point or non-point sources? No. Does the proposed action include construction or other activities that would result in the impoundment of water or liquids like a retention pond? No. Has the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property been the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility? Excuse me, no. Has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been subject to remediation, ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? No. We all good with that?
How does the bald eagle fall into that? I've never seen one up close on land.
We always just have to declare it.
They're,
It's part of the review.
Because they're here.
They're here. And if one-
That's actually,
if you're in
that's
trouble-
actually one of the questions that when you plug the properties into the DEC mapper that they have that helps with the completion of these forms, that mapper answers that question for you. So I didn't answer that. That's a DEC answer. So they feel that there are bald eagle in the area and that should be taken into account with respect to any projects that are considered.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Anybody want to move it?
I move we adopt the resolution classifying the acquisition of historical 20-foot right of way and unlisted action under the state environmental quality of the act.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
The next one. Which has all the stuff in the beginning, but I'll read it just to make sure we follow the process right. Whereas to accomplish its governmental purposes, the village is authorized and empowered to acquire by eminent domain pursuant to New York State eminent domain procedure law or other means those real property interests necessary and or appropriate to further its stated purposes. And whereas the village is seeking to acquire and preserve the 20-foot right-of-way granted to the United States of America per Liber 181 of deeds, page 419, for the purpose of maintaining the historical public access and walkway along Great Sodus Bay. Where the right-of-way was conveyed by Elmira and Lake Ontario Railroad in 1899 to provide the United States of America with access to the pier and also for the use and convenience of the public generally. Whereas the right-of-way encumbers the following properties located in the village of Sodus Point, Wayne County, New York, identified in the table below: James and Lisa McNaney, the Pugh Family Irrevocable Trust, Guy and Kathleen Beretta. Whereas a short environmental assessment form and supporting documents is being reviewed by the village. Whereas the village has attempted to preserve the right-of-way without resorting to eminent domain, but has been unsuccessful in those efforts. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the village board, the village will hold a public hearing on a date that we have to figure out before we grant this. Notice will be delivered to the owners of the impacted properties. Copy of this resolution with the attachments shall be placed in the file for public to see in the village hall. So we need to talk about a date, and we have to give it some time, right, Kathy?
Yeah, so this notice has to be delivered to the owners of the property or sent by certified mail. They need to get it at least 20 days before the public hearing. And it also needs to appear in 2 successive issues of the official newspaper. And that has to occur not more than 30, but not less than 10 days before the public hearing.
So the earliest we could have a public hearing would be the 12th or 13th of, I'm sorry. I counted wrong.
2 issues. 2 weeks.
Really, the 10th or 11th of October.
Well, I think the South Shore Road should come before this one. To get that one taken care of.
The dedication of the road.
Yeah,
Which is
for
later in the
dedication of
agenda.
the road, which is later in the agenda. That's been out there for a long time. And I think we should have that probably on the 12th of October. So moved.
So the soonest we can do the other one is the 11th? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the soonest we can have a public hearing that we set tonight would be the 10th of October.
Okay. So I'll move.
Doesn't
it.
have to be that week either, any of them.
I would recommend not, I mean, in the event that we can't reach the individuals, right? We want a little bit of leeway to make sure that we're able to provide proper notice to the property owners. So I wouldn't just do it 20 days from today.
So if we looked at the next week, the 17th, 18th,
So we get the board meeting, right?
board meeting's on the 19th. Are people available on the 17th?
No, I've got a playground meeting. And somebody's lying in.
How
Can't
about
do
the,
Mondays or Wednesdays or Mondays are planning boards, right?
how about the 18th?
I'm with the
18th is good for me.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll read October 18th at 7 PM or 6:30.
That's, don't do 6:30 for me. That's
All
my new route and I'm not sure I will be available that early.
Okay.
7 o'clock would be better.
All right. Here, and we'll provide a Zoom link. We need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second,
If you anticipate more than 70 persons.
I have no idea.
Do you want to do it at the fire hall?
I think a lot of people participate by Zoom.
Okay.
you
We
can't
can-
do
we
Zoom
can-
at the firewall. okay?
I
Firewall?
can set it up.
Oh, you
I just
Yeah, we have-
the occupancy in here. And that's a lot of people. If we get a lot, I just don't want
I think you can have a lot of people.
I just have to get them in and out.
Yeah, I think you'd have more than you think.
Okay, so that has to be in the advertisement where it's in. So,
Yeah, so
is there any conflict for the fire?
probably not, because they meet on Thursday night. So we want to do it at the fire hall?
First base, I think.
I think so.
Okay,
If we don't have the numbers, we didn't lose anything.
right.
You should wait till spring, you'll get better numbers, people are really here.
That's why we have Zoom.
Worked out one last week.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah.
We do?
We already did it.
Oh, sorry.
She moved, I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know who I am, but you're pretty fucking rude.
enough.
Okay, so 10 subject.
Okay,
Are we done with motions on that?
we are moving on much later than I anticipated to, thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you, everybody. I will see you on the 18th.
Olivia, is she here? Yeah, there you are. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No. She's Barton.
She's from Barton and Julius and will present the,
Playground. A happy topic.
yes.
Yeah. Wherever you're coming.
I have a jump drive, the
Yeah, if you want to give it to me, I can put it over here and then I can share the screen.
Nobody can know about the playground.
Well, I think.
Do you want to
some thought
use my
they would be
laptop to?
tonight.
That's fine. It should be charged now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, makes sense. Some people don't say public hearing.
That's that. Oh, it's not.
Maybe, I don't know.
The miss, that's why I say, I think you have more people than.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to public hearing, I think. Thousand people show.
I used to be back.
You know, probably not thousand, you know what I'm saying? I just.
Which one? Do you
Right,
want
one way or the other.
We all agreed to that, you know,
That one?
I'm the only one that's there. I'm for signing, I'm like, really?
Thank you for stepping up, because otherwise I would be going on the direction.
We take the whole damn thing.
Wasted a lot of time.
Like I say, it doesn't affect me at all. Just many people going one side to the other, so.
You might, can you just ask the back of the room to
Do we need to?
disperse or call the sheriff's office if that doesn't handle? There's people in people's faces. I can either call the sheriff or James can.
James is right up.
James is in someone's face, so if it doesn't stop, I'm gonna call the sheriff.
All right. Where is he outside?
Over here.
He's right here.
He's right here.
James Haley.
James. James.
James.
All right, thank you.
All right, so I will, you wanna sit here, I'm gonna zoom out, or if you wanna stand, it's up to whatever you're comfortable with.
Whatever you guys.
Just trying to get it
She's
set.
like, I'm so happy that you have to go second.
Just gets me such. You're good, take control. Your thing.
You want a mouse?
We'll see.
Zoom in right here.
Oh.
Right, that might be what it is.
Just trying to expand
Do the view again.
it. I can do full screen.
Yep.
This is out on our website under projects, this document. Since the other one apparently just went away.
Everybody's done now.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm dying.
All right, we're ready. Okay, perfect.
This is the final master plan for Willow Park. I'm Olivia. I work with Barton and Judas. And we worked with a project team of landscape architects, community planners, and engineers, along with the steering committee that was designated for this project. So just to walk you through the master plan report, we talked with the committee about their vision for Willow Park and develop a process closely with them to kind of get as much public engagement as we could and engage the community as well. To identify priority projects that should be included within the Willow Park master plan. So we kicked off the project with a site visit. So our project team got out at the site. They were able to see the existing conditions of the different playground equipment. We walked with the committee so that they were also able to share some of their thoughts and insight about the existing condition, things that could be opportunities for the site, but also some of the needs and issues that they saw with the site as well. We also, like I mentioned before, wanted to incorporate the community within this project as well, since they are the ones that were really, designing this park for. So we did hold a public workshop for this. And then we used, the thoughts that we heard from the committee, as well as the feedback that we received from the community to develop this master plan. So I'll walk through that. I walked through the process a little bit. Here's the committee that we worked closely with to develop this master plan. Now, a little bit about Willow Park. We know that it's a highly used green space located in close walking distance to the village's central business district. So we really wanted to play into that as well. We wanted to make the park ADA accessible, make sure that all ages and abilities could utilize this green space. We know that it's used already, but how could we make that better? There's the tourist booth located right on the corner that is really a landmark of Willow Park and also of the village of Sodus. So we wanted to talk about ways to enhance that and keep that the inviting gateway that it is for the park. And then really fine tune some of the things that we thought were working within the site and things that we could improve on. So talking with the committee and through our site visit, we began to develop this existing conditions map. So we've identified that there's an existing informal sledding hill. They have a large playground space. There's different wet areas that we saw that maybe we need to start looking at these existing conditions and coming up with a solution. We also looked at the parking lot. We know that there's been some flooding issues there. And then we also noticed that there's some waterfront access. So really trying to monopolize on a lot of the opportunities for the site and identify solutions for where there could be improvements. So here we began to talk about a little more about the needs and opportunities. We really wanted some improvements to the existing infrastructure. So we know that the equipment is highly used by the community, but we also wanted to take it a step further. We know that a lot of people visit the village of Sodus seasonally, so we really wanted to start drawing people into this public space. We know that there have been some drainage issues, so how can we begin to accommodate that? And then looking at different pieces of the site that maybe are unutilized. So can we add in different amenities that we heard from the community? Can we build upon some of these things and maybe change the uses if we felt like we needed to? So we really wanted to target a bunch of different user types. We really like this play everywhere approach. And that's really what Willow Park is used for. We wanted to come up with an interesting theme, and we really worked closely with playground manufacturers and the committee to determine that. And then again, we really wanted to make this space usable by everyone, all ages and abilities, create ADA accessibility so that we could really maximize the people using the space. So here you'll see a diagram that we created for the needs and opportunities, identifying areas of open space, some opportunities for different spatial arrangements of things, looking at incorporating new features and how exactly would those work together to, contribute to the overall vision that the committee wanted for the site. So we use that needs and opportunities diagram to create this conceptual plan. And we had that vetted through the committee. They identified their priority projects that they'd like to see within Willow Park. And we created this concept plan. They came back with a lot of different priority projects that they wanted to see. So we were actually able to fit them all within Willow Park, this small park within the village. So here you'll see our, initial thoughts on the concept plan. We presented it at a public workshop, which was at the 4th of July parade. So we really got a really high attendance there. We had about 40 attendees. So that's great. We had families, we had kids responding to what was within Willow Park. And you can see from all the stickers that we asked people to vote on some of the priority projects. So we took these ideas and were able to develop a draft master plan. And I'm just going to go through that and talk about the master plan process as we go. So this is really an idea and a vision from the whole entire community. So we got a lot of feedback. We refined this final master plan to really contribute to the overall vision of the site, but it also incorporated a lot of things that we heard at the public workshop. So you can see here that we have a very large enhanced playground area. So the footprint of the playground has been doubled in size from what you see as the existing site. So going from 6,500 square feet to 12,600 square feet. So a very large play space. We've incorporated different inclusive play equipment and used rubberized playground surfacing to really maximize accessibility and inclusive play. So we've created this walking path system through the whole park. That is highly utilized by families, by kids riding their bike, and then also by people wanting to just move through the space and use it as passive recreation. You can see that we've incorporated a lot of seating opportunities. So if any parents are sitting on the outside area of the playground space, or they can push their stroller along that space and still be able to watch their children playing on the playground. And that being said, this network of pathways is ADA accessible and really allows people to move throughout this entire space. And it allows people the opportunity to kind of experience different rooms within Willow Park. So we do also have a secondary path system, which would have a different material, and that would weave between the existing heavy tree cover that's on, the back corner of the site. So really trying to introduce some of these different experiences within Willow Park. We're enhancing the existing sledding hill. We know that that's highly used by everyone. And we really want to start incorporating, play through all different seasons. We also incorporated some skate park equipment, and that would be, along with the path, not necessarily a designated area like what you saw before. And then we've also have a splash pad feature, a multi-sport court. This was vetted by the committee as well. We gave them a few different multi-sport court options and sizing to accommodate what we thought we should have within the park. And then it was further vetted by the community. So they really identified what they wanted to use that multi-sport court for.
Can we put an ice rink on the multi-sport court?
Yes, you can. And you can also do that on the splash pad if you wanted to as well. So then, like I mentioned before, the tourist booth is a very big landmark for the village. So we really wanted to keep that as a landmark within the park and further enhance it. So have a network of paths that go around it, really maximize its use. And then we've also added in restrooms and a pavilion structure behind it. We don't want to take away from the existing tourist booth, but we also provide amenities to people that might need it. And this location was picked by the committee really to, get people into the site, but also if anyone's passing through the area, make it easily accessible to anyone using the park. So if you have to run off the playground to use the restroom or whatnot, or anyone, attract for tourists within the area as well. We also started to look at some of the drainage issues that we saw within the parking lot. So we wanted to incorporate some green infrastructure. So that really helps to, capture some of the runoff that's coming from the parking lot. All the runoff is going off of this flat surface and capturing it in these green bioretention areas. So this provides, not only benefits to the environment, but also helps with a solution to some of the drainage issues that we saw. And then lastly, we also talked with a few committee members and community members about the need for bank stabilization and the incorporation of an overlook area to really maximize the use of that waterfront space. Not many parks have waterfront space, so we really wanted to get people to access the waterfront. And then also to kind of encourage people that are ice fishing and snowmobilers to really build up that bank so it's not eroding in the way that it has been in the past. So these are all the features that the committee and the community really wanted to see within Willow Park. We think that we've created this awesome, exciting new space, and I think that this master plan is a good way to start, going after funding for a number of these different pieces. So I'll flip through this. This is the grading plan that we also, a preliminary grading plan to kind of address some of the drainage issues that we saw, and then start to accommodate some of the features within Willow Park. So we broke these priority projects into different phases. This, is a lot for one park to have a lot of these amenities. And we really want to create it in a way where this park design can be phased over time. And that's exactly how you'll go after funding for some of these pieces. You can kind of pick and choose and cherry pick which projects you'd like to go after as funding comes available. And it also makes it easier for the committee and the village to kind of, vet what they'd like to go after funding for. We've set the master plan up in a way where you'll see a summary of the phase on the left, and then you'll see a cost estimate on the right. So this makes it easier for, you can pull from a few different projects to go after funding for, and then you'll also have a plan of exactly what that looks like. And a lot of times when you go after funding, they do ask you, they want to see a preliminary cost estimate. They want to see that you have a plan in place for where these projects will be located, and also have it, developed a little bit. And that's exactly what we've provided in this master plan. So there is a range in the cost estimates. We have included costs for 2024 costs, but then we also want to accommodate construction costs and inflation for over time. So normally when master plans are created, they are a plan for implementation in 2 to 5 years. So we really wanted to, show an estimate of what costs could be for next year, but then also accommodate costs for the future to give you an idea. Also, it's better to go a little higher when you're going after funding than lower, just in case things aren't implemented as quickly as you might think. So we've gone through these, we've shown some existing conditions of what it looks like, and then exactly how that proposed design might look. And then talked about some of the benefits of making these improvements. So this shows the parking lot. It would be resurfaced and have planted parking islands. And it would not be curved so that the stormwater runoff could actually be captured in those islands. Here's an example of the pavilion and enhanced tourist booth. So this pavilion can also not only be used as a restroom, but also a covered area for picnicking. Plan view, showing that connection between the tourist booth and the new structure.
Is there figures in, I haven't looked through it thoroughly, but are there figures in there as far as raising because of high water mark or not?
No, we did not factor that in.
Okay, I'm just.
Here's an example of the multi-sport court. There are different options for surfacing. You can work with the manufacturer if you'd like the tiles, or in this case, we used the colored concrete. This is the splash pad area. And in this case, you can first depending on how you want to phase it, you can do surface mounted geysers and then start to add in some of the vertical features. Really, that plays into exactly what you guys would want for cost, but it is nice to, sometimes use a combination of both those things. And what we've done in the past is using some of the geysers, you can actually uplight them so that it becomes more of like a light show after the fact. Here's an example of some waterfront enhancement, putting in an accessible overlook. So you're really maximizing the amount of people that can go to use that area. And then we like to incorporate interpretive signage panels throughout the park. It asks people to kind of engage the setting a little bit more, and they also, learn something about maybe Sodus Bay or some of the green infrastructure that we're implementing, and some of the play equipment as well. So really playing into the strengths that we see within Willow Park. There's a number of different experiences, a number of different amenities that we wanted to incorporate to really, get the community excited about this project and, play into how it can be utilized further than what it is now. We've also included, you know, different plans for implementation, looking at different potential funding sources that could be used to fund a series of these phases of the project. And then we've also included in appendices, we have existing condition photos showing what we've gathered from our site visit. We have some mapping that was taken into consideration. The presentation boards from the public workshop, any of the comments that were received from that as well, so that you'll have that as backup. And then a lot of times we recommend, you know, the village keeping this PDF as a running list. So anyone that comes to you with wanting different amenities, you can always add that as an addendum to the master plan report. Just so you have that running list. And really, New York State likes to see that there's a plan in place for new features coming in, which is why they like to see master plans, master plan reports. It really shows that the community is invested in improving the village, and then gets everyone excited about the fundraising efforts for implementing these plans.
What are the, what's the longevity of this, you know, I mean, I haven't seen anything, you know, I'm sure you guys have it, the longevity of some of the equipment, the rubberized coating versus the concrete, what's the maintenance aspect and the yearly cost of some of these things? You know, because I always look at it, you know, from that standpoint of what's it gonna cost to maintain this new project once we get it up and running?
Right.
You know, if it's a great, we can build the world, but can we pay for it in the long run?
Exactly. The rubberized playground surfacing has a 10-year warranty on it. They like it if you would like brush it off and blow it off, I'd say seasonally. Really that's so that there's no staining from the leaves that fall on it. The reason that we like to use it is because it's very safe surfacing, but also it's ADA accessible. So anyone in a wheelchair can ride right over it. A lot of places use the engineered wood fiber mulch, which is a good alternative, but it is not ADA accessible, and that's
And
really,
it's heavy
really,
maintenance.
Yeah.
And expensive to replace.
yes.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
And then another thing that's becoming popular is the synthetic turf that they're using for playgrounds. That has a longer warranty on it, but I've seen that there's a lot more wear and tear on it. You have to call someone to kind of come and get it replaced, just because kids crawl on the ground. You can see that there's patches of that get worn in more frequently.
The NFL's finding out right now with injuries as well. Some
Yeah.
of these new turf fields with cement under them and the grass on them, and it's causing greater injuries than whereas doing what you're doing, you're getting away from that a little bit without.
Right.
I went up and visited the Webster Park rubberized floor with a bunch of kids. And that park was done in memory of the fireman that died, which was about 11 or 12 years ago. And they said it was 10 years old and there wasn't a mark on it. It looked like new. And I said, it's a lot of maintenance. And they said, it's really not in comparison to what they had. And by placing benches within that rubberized park, you also don't have to have the maintenance around those benches when they come to mow and that sort of thing. So we've looked at a lot of things, and we'll keep looking at how to keep the maintenance down. But the warranty things with the committee, if it's in doubt, it's my hope that people will leave their life savings to it when they die to keep the park going for years and years to come. And it's a young committee with a few old geezers, right? But experience.
I know the better you know.
What can I say?
I include myself.
It looks really, really thorough.
So it
No,
will
I like it.
carry through.
I like the layout. What about like the splash pad, the pumps and stuff like that, for that stuff? I mean, how intricate is that pump system for the splash pad? And what's the cost to replace one? Like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
No, that's fine. I totally
I want to
understand.
see that.
What's nice about your park is you already have restrooms and they're in close proximity to where the splash pad is located. So I don't think that it would be like, some parks have no access to water. You have that in close proximity to it. So I can't imagine that the water service, like you already have water service there. So that, is usually an added cost for parks that don't already have water. I don't exactly know the cost of that. for the hookups or the replacement, but we can definitely speculate. those
Things that
costs.
we acknowledged there too, that was actually proposed to go a little different spot, but after we met with the people from the community and talked to folks, and we have several on the committee that live on the trailer park, we were able to put the rainforest and stuff there because of the water, and then the splash park will turn off at night. So, and it turns off anyways, it has to be activated.
Right, it is.
Used. So
Keep the
it's
noise down for them.
keep the
Yeah.
noise down.
Right, what I'm looking at is, hey, here's this pump and it costs
Yes.
$10,000. It's got a lifespan of 15 years. Okay, we're gonna do all this. It's great. And I love it. I'm 100% behind it. But, it's like a hot water heater in your house. It's gonna last X amount of years. As a village, I think we need to make sure that we're putting a
Right.
little bit of dollars away every single year in the reserve fund, because eventually, we're gonna have this maintenance major program.
And as you go through this, we may decide when we start meeting with the people more, that that's not something that's conducive and that we really
Right.
don't want it and put something
Sure.
stable there or something of that nature. I can't tell you what the whole thing is really gonna look like, but it looks good in the vision.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. We've built out Willow Park. It won't necessarily look like this right away, obviously. And we really, essentially, you want to phase this. And the reason that we put these master plans together is so that you have a plan in place. Because what if funding comes available and you're like, oh, we really wanted this splash pad, but we didn't incorporate it into the master plan. Then you have to kind of vet it again through the community to decide where this is gonna go, what's the best location. But right now, we're, using this master plan as a document that you'll be phasing these projects. And they've been located, like the locations have been located by not only the committee, but also have been vetted by the community. So it really puts that plan in place. And that's what New York State likes to see for funding opportunities as well. That you guys have made the effort to talk to the committee, talk to the community about where they think things should be located.
You're probably gonna need, you mentioned a parks person, someone dedicated to, if we're gonna have the parks, this park and this park, you're gonna have an employee. Yeah, you're gonna have to have
Yeah.
something that's over time.
And then also back to your maintenance. Oh, hold on a second, I'm just gonna piggyback on that maintenance question. So when you put in a splash pad, you'll work closely with the manufacturer, so they'll recommend different features that you can use. They're gonna test the water to make sure that there's like a certain PSI, there's a certain water pressure that you'll need. So they'll be able to help you identify like exactly what equipment you'll need, the pressure of water to make sure it's accommodating to the fixtures that you guys want to use. And then they'll also help you put a maintenance plan in place.
Do those normally come with pumps and stuff underneath the pad, or are they normally in a separate building or shed or something,
It
or?
I would say it
Okay.
depends. So
Alright.
since it's in such close proximity to your existing restroom facility, I don't see why it couldn't go in that building. A lot of times we do have a standalone structure that's like off to the side from the splash pad. It really has to do with the utilities that are in close proximity. to
The other
splash
issue
pad.
down here too is with our water level. You go down a foot below the top of the grass and you're standing in bay water, so you really probably want it in a building. You didn't have that to contend with, having your pumps in the water or the bay water or
And
that.
it's on a little bit of a slope there too, so that kind of helps. Webster had a separate location for theirs. I went to another one too, but I can't remember where it was, and they had it in the restroom area. So it's not uncommon to have it, I paid a lot of attention to every park that I went to as to where different things were located. I was in Burlington, I was at that one. But, this isn't gonna be a grandiose one, it's gonna be small, probably have a lighthouse spewing water or something of that nature, and, the theme is to be land around with that being part of our shores. So,
Did you talk proposed cost when I was out of the room or not? No,
no, it's expensive, but maybe,
it's expensive, but what?
but,
I have a whole summary of the. cost
yeah,
of it.
there's a summary of it, and,
There's a summary by feature.
yeah.
I mean, if you sum it all up, it's a heck of a lot of money, but if you take a couple, if you start, it's probably manageable
Right.
with the right grant
So it's
or,
still a heck of a lot of money.
yeah, it's still a heck of a lot
Over
of
a
money.
period of 5
And,
years.
and to Tracy's point, I mean, honestly, staffing wise, we are close to needing another person anyway.
Right.
So this would probably set us over the edge. And biggest problem is finding people who want to work hard. Not that,
The good news, it's a summer program. It's a summer program.
yeah,
For
But
tax, we're just.
there may be
right, we're not spending any money.
Right.
yeah, and hopefully we can have, our goal as a committee, which is a hefty goal, is to try to raise this all through corporate funding and sponsors. I'm hoping that we can go visit all the fruit farmers around here, maybe Mott's, some of the others, and they're ready to roll. They're like getting it ready. If we can't get the 501(c)(3) fast enough, can we? The plan is going in, we're meeting with the folks that did all of the planning. And you know what, worst case, the scenario, if we fall on our face, we end up with enough replacement equipment. But it never hurts to have a real goal, and if we ended up with $500,000, you don't know until you ask, you go to the pot. And it's gonna be professional, it's gonna be well-run to go after this operation. I'm excited about it. At first I thought, oh, what have I done? What did he get me into when he said, I started with a playground that would probably be $200,000. And now that we've got the whole Willow Park, and then I look at it and I go, yes, this is what we need. And Dave was really the one that said, we should really be looking at this whole property, and then we look at it as underutilized wealth.
Well, the playground is hard to use a lot of the times in its current condition, not because of the equipment, not that that's good either, but because it's low and those wood chips float and leave the area. The bricks are all falling apart.
Yeah,
We have priced getting those repaired and decided it was too much money. So,
and also they've got to be weeded, weed whacked, all the stuff, and we're gonna try to minimize that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll end up with it. I'm optimistic.
all right, any questions of Olivia or Lori? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
This is out on our website, the present or the plan that she walked through is out on our website. If you don't find it, let me know, because apparently some things disappeared. So we'll get them back. But the next item on our agenda is to adopt this conceptual plan.
Can I just say one other
Sure.
thing? Working with Olivia and her staff has been an ultimate pleasure. They have been the most, and I've worked on a lot of stuff like this through my years, many years, but they were stellar. And I told several people that I've been talking with about different functions, from Nixon Peabody to the candidate with National Bank, and they probably all know you. If you need somebody, they're good. So I'd just like to publicly thank them, and I look forward to working on them, because I'm sure they're going to be involved in everything from ground to the playground and whatnot. He's expecting. And so that being said, yes, we need to,
You're making a motion there, girl?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the master plan dated September 2023 for Willow Park.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Everybody voted aye, so we're good. I just want to read this before I sign it.
Very nice.
Oh, it's fine. You guys can scan it and send it to me.
All right, that's
Not need to
definitely-
be-
That's
Perfect.
the electronics for the.
Yep.
For the CAD file.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the purchase of a dump truck for the highway department in 2025. So we're putting it in order. And as we create the 2025 budget, we need to know that we're gonna be spending a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the truck is rusted. And the bed shot, and the one we had was the 2014 that we're retiring, is that what I remember?
Yeah, that was in the beginning.
No, it's 2001 that we're retiring.
2000.
On the highway.
2004, excuse me.
2004, thank you.
Yeah, so at
40K
the,
mileage.
at the time, in 2025, it'll be 21 years old. And then the 14-year-old truck that we have right now, which is our secondary truck, will become the spare or the third truck for brush removal. Because that's what they use the oldest truck for, is to go do the dirty job, and beat it up a little bit, if you
And
will.
this is consistent with the way we have been replacing these trucks for many years. It's been roughly every 7 years. I think the thing that we should look at for the one after 2025 is a stainless steel bed. But it is a ton more money.
But if it gets it longer, but you're saying that the truck is rusted out,
And the,
what kind of engine is it?
well, the engine's probably worth money to somebody.
Yeah, so somewhere we'll get something for it. Any idea how much these are, or do we?
It's
in your
100 and,
It's on the back.
200 grand.
$199,605.28.
It's a big number.
It's a lot of truck.
it's consistent with what we spent
It's
7
cheaper
years.
It doesn't get as much use, it's not. Except for 2 trips. this year.
Sorry, we're not open for public comment at this time,
Oh,
sir.
All right, so we're actually approving this to be spent in 2025 or for budgeting purposes for 2025?
We're approving the purchase.
Yeah.
So when we create that budget, we have to.
Put that in there.
Yeah, well, let me ask
Do we
this
have
question.
money?
Where are we gonna pull 200 grand from?
Well, there's $150,000 or $70,000 in highway equipment reserve today.
I'll get a loan, I think.
Yeah.
For the balance.
Okay. So you're saying that this time we got $1.50, so
We have a loan for the one.
And we're probably gonna sell the one we have, right? The truck will probably
We'll
sell.
sell the oldest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do we know the approximate value on the old one right now? Any idea?
no.
Look at these options.
All to protect against salt, most of them are the options. Undercoat, stainless steel pan.
I don't know, that's only page 9 of all the options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the last page.
So the total body, the allied equipment, that's actually the box of the truck?
Yes. Yeah, the truck itself is 150 minus some credit somewhere along the way.
Can we just buy him another Bobcat?
Or three.
We can all just drive Bobcats.
Okay,
All right,
This customer is something to buy a state bid or is this off state bid?
it's unsafe. It's-
That's why we want.
Yep. You making the motion there, bud?
Mr. Highway, Mr. Highway.
I'm contemplating here, that's a big number. But if we have 150 in here, we sell the other truck, say we get something for it.
We're still gonna get a loan.
Which is.
Yeah.
Is this what?
It'll just be for the amount that he's doing.
Right, it'd be the
I don't
difference.
know what that is.
Allowance, is that what the estimating ours gonna be?
We get
Probably, maybe.
Wait, where do you see that?
Do you
This
see
is
that
less
last
customer
40
allowance.
47,000, I just wondered if that was.
It doesn't say trade-in.
It doesn't, no, it doesn't.
Right, that's,
Sure.
Some sort of discount or something, probably.
yeah,
Probably because they don't state that.
Yeah.
I move that we authorize the purchase of this and put it in for 2025. With the stipulation of the cost doesn't go up more than,
Well, the reason we're putting it
Sign
out
it.
Right,
is
we lock it in.
it's to lock the cost.
well, then I definitely so moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right, the next is to approve Fisher Associates for the community peer study. I don't have this in my packet, so I gotta read it from yours, please.
I tried really hard to download that, and I couldn't download that from the link that was out.
I had the same problem. But they said furnished a copy for you with them.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the people that reviewed it Nobody indicated they had a problem.
It's a committee, right?
Yeah.
Who's on that committee?
Jada Wispelier, Chris Turtnick, Maxine Appleby, Josh Jerome, Lori Oliverio,
Who's on
Mark
the-
Ketchum, and Ashley March. And the resolution reads, whereas the village of Sodas Point was awarded $45,000 to develop an environmental and socioeconomic impact study of community peer locations.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And whereas in accordance with applicable procurement requirements, the village of Sodas Point prepared and advertised a request for qualifications on July 3rd, 2023 for consultant services. Whereas the village received one qualifications package before the August 18th, 2023 submission deadline from the following firm, Fisher Associates, for $43,880. And whereas the village consulted with the Associate Director of New York Sea Grant at Cornell University to determine if re-advertisement would be necessary because of the receipt of one qualifications package. Whereas New York Sea Grant authorized the village to retain Fisher Associates provided they were deemed qualified and could perform the work within the established budget. And whereas after evaluation of their submission package, the review committee determined that Fisher Associates was qualified to perform all study tasks within the prescribed budget. Now therefore be it resolved, the village board retained Fisher Associates to perform the study, and be it further resolved, the cost of the study shall not exceed $45,000.
This will tell us about the 3 different places that we have.
It will evaluate the environmental and socioeconomic impact of the 3 potential sites.
And the 3 potential sites are,
The yacht club / junior sailing, the South Municipal Lot, and the campground,
the campground being
Silver Waters Campground.
Silver Waters.
That's the name of Bruce Carey's campground.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the other one is where the playground is, right? Well,
That's, yeah, the South Municipal Lot off that end. And there are obvious advantages and disadvantages to all of them, but it's all got to get weighed out by experts. And they got to do some marine studies and things like that.
yeah, but there's also some things buried in different places at both areas. Am I correct? It's like the playground. There's something down there.
I don't know about in the water, but underneath the playground and underneath the parking lot is some pretty acidic soil.
I move that we approve the authorization of
Fisher Associates.
Fisher Associates to conduct the study necessary for the 3 potential docks, public dock sites. The
Community peer project.
community peer project. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. But, okay.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right, highway salt barn roof quotes.
I don't have that one in my packet.
Nobody, Tracy's got it.
That's okay.
Okay, it's not my fault this
No,
time.
no.
Didn't visit my mailbox.
All right, we have one from Jeff Trudeau for $14,800. We have one from Miller's Construction LLC for $15,978. We have one from Hanger Roof for $13,900. And we have one from SOS Contracting for $17,100.
They all have insurance.
Miller doesn't, they're C200 exempt, C202 exempt,
How do they get that?
religious or sole proprietor exemption.
Oh,
So,
Well, we've got experience, quite a bit of experience with Kangaroo
yeah. they-
between the fire hall roof and other
But
things that have been
in the
done.
past, we approve quotes from them and then they always charge us more.
Okay,
So we give the job in the past, we've given them a job. And they always add. So that is something.
What's the
to
percentage of it?
Consider. I mean, the last one was.
That's
they-
not a good experience, period, though. I mean, if every time you use them, that they come back and ask for more.
It's, you know, I'm just.
They're all gonna
I'm just throwing that out there.
They're all gonna remove
That's-
the existing shingles. Replace the plywood. Put ice and water down.
There's a $900 difference between.
What do we know about Jeff Trini's?
He does good work. He's building a couple houses now, isn't he?
Yeah,
Is he
Pole
local?
barns,
Yeah.
pole barns, yeah, he's local.
That's just kind of what we're.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
so
from.
there's
Wax.
his is 900 more than the camper, but that, I just wanted you guys to know that.
Yeah.
That has happened, and it wasn't just once, it's been more than once with the village, so. Just something to consider.
Did anybody have a recommendation other than?
I don't know if, yeah, I don't know if we know, and that's the highest one. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know SOS and Brad, I don't know.
Did Brad express any?
Brad doesn't care who does it. He just wants it done.
That we accept Jeff Trini's?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stay on those.
I'm not partial to anybody. so.
What would that mean, you opposed or?
He would go with a low bid, but the low bid doesn't stay the low bid, so.
But I've used Kangaroo multiple times now, and I didn't realize what the village went through, and I'm
Yeah.
just not gonna vote.
It seems
He's abstaining.
abstain, yes, that's okay.
They'll do.
Yeah. Going back to Kangaroo, then. Maybe we should go to them and say, you should vote for it.
Decisions, and it's only $900, like Tracy said, and I understand, and
That's probably what it
she's had more experience with them
She's the one
when
who
it
has to
comes
pay.
to the bill paying.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but.
And we know Jeff does good work. So,
That's what we need to know.
yep. All right, so now we need to set the public hearing date for the Sill Shore Road dedication. Which I think we want on the 10th or 11th of October. Earlier.
The 11th is that.
10th is a Tuesday, 11th is a Wednesday, 12th is a Thursday.
10th is good for me.
Oh,
10th, I gotta do a special zoning meeting that night, so don't do 10th.
11th.
11th,
October 11th?
7 PM, Bill, is that good for
yeah, just, yeah. It'll work.
you? Okay,
It's the time now, not the date.
so that's the public hearing on the dedication of the road.
Yeah. We'll have to kick SOS out of here. We'll kick them upstairs.
It's October 11th.
Yeah.
At what time?
I did put 7 PM.
And then we'll have something on the agenda for the adoption on the 19th.
Yes.
The vote, right?
And the 18th is the public hearing.
Yeah.
290 days.
So we're gonna have the public hearing on the. Right away on the,
18th.
and then we don't vote on it until. The following board meeting? Is
Yeah,
that-
it'd be November.
I'll have to talk to her, probably November.
Okay.
And probably we'll go into executive session on the 19th, and she'll talk to us.
About that vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but we'll have all the information from the night before.
Yeah.
Fresh, you know, it's like, yeah, there's gonna be.
There's a lot of paperwork that she's got to prepare for us to even vote on, so. Okay, any other new business? Let's pay our bills.
91 through 957, 78,237.37. General fund 47,289.34, water 13,773.69, and wastewater 17,173.34.
I move we pay the bills before they shut the lights off.
You just like saying that every time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What if we like it in the dark, Bill?
Yeah, some of them really candles. Maybe we want to use candles, Bill.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Oh, you are.
Yeah,
We're gonna do executive session. too?
yeah, so I need somebody to move.
I move that we go into
Are
executive
we
session.
voting on anything?
No.
during- We're not taking any action.
No,
Okay.
just updating you on some litigation.
I move that we go into executive session so we can discuss pending litigation.
I'll second it.
Get the hell out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I stay? for executive session?
It's probably-